Hello everyone, this is your audio for the Unit 2 Activity 1, Were the 20s Roaring? For Unit 2. For this lesson, we'll be looking at completing an assignment submission, a Google Jamboard as a class, and a quiz. And the topics that we'll be covering are 1920s slang, overview of the 1920s, prohibition, women, progress, or Indigenous peoples, progress. Our learning goals: using the historical thinking concept of continuity and change and looking at the guidepost of progress and decline. We'll be learning how to analyze primary source evidence, an important skill for thinking like a historian, in analyzing primary and secondary sources on residential schools. So once you get to this slide during class, you're going to be drawing a line anywhere on the slide to match up all of the possible 1920s slang words with their definitions. Take a guess on what you think first and then check for your answers after. So historical thinking concept, continuity and change. After the hardships of war, people were ready to have a good time, enjoy life, and reap the rewards of this sacrifice. The Roaring Twenties gets its name from the burst in entertainment, technology, dance, music, and changing fashion of women. The question remains, however, did the 20s roar for everyone? Is roaring an accurate description for most Canadians? Did the 20s roar for everyone? The idea of progress and decline is important to examine during this time period. Throughout history, we often examine ways in which life improves. We need to also examine how wide-reaching these changes were. Did everyone experience them or just a select few? Taking a look at this picture, move your purple dot over to whatever group of people you think will see the most progress in the 1920s. Do you think it will be women or Indigenous peoples? What do you think now with your pre-learning? What prior knowledge do you have about women or Indigenous peoples in the 1920s that helps you to make your choice? The Good Bright Days. Watch the following video clip from the National Film Board, Good Bright Days, to get an overview of the 1920s. Although you may choose to watch the entire video, pay particular attention to this section that starts at 16 minutes and 22 seconds and goes until 19 minutes and 50 seconds. What were some changes taking place in the 1920s? Entertainment and leisure activities. Now that the First World War was over, many Canadians had time and money to spend on themselves. The 1920s was a time of prosperity and living life. People were buying on credit, spending money instead of saving, enjoying the talkies at the movie theater, and paying closer attention to the beauty of nature in Canada. Jazz music was growing in popularity. New dances such as the Charleston were all the rage, and women's fashion was changing as a result of this new lifestyle. The economy of the 1920s. There were great changes in Canada's economy during this time period. Canada was rich in natural resources. The wheat market exploded as so many countries were in need of importing food for their citizens while they rebuilt their countries. Manufacturing sectors also prospered as more and more people moved to the cities, which is equal to urbanization. Pulp and paper was an important industry as Canada supplied much of the world with paper in the 1920s as well. Why would Canada have an advantage in this industry, do you think? Prohibition in Canada. Prohibition is a time period in Canada and the United States where alcohol became illegal. The rules in Canada were not quite as strict as in the United States. This allowed for the rise of organized crime and for everyday folk in Canada to make a few extra bucks selling illegal booze. Let's take a closer look. Misbehavin'. Take a look at this documentary. It shows the difference between the American and Canadian laws surrounding prohibition. Although you may wish to watch the entire documentary, the first 10 minutes will give you the information that you need. Think about the concept of for or against. Make a short list of what you consider to be junk food, maybe 3 to 4 items. Make a second list of what you consider to be the pros and cons of banning junk food. Now think, what would the position be of the following people on banning junk food? Maybe a physical education teacher, a doctor, a teenager, CEO of a company that makes junk food? What challenges would our government and or police have trying to enforce such a ban? Now for your assignment, the Unit 2 Activity 1 assignment submission. Instructions. Download the Unit 2 Activity 1 Roaring Twenties and Prohibition CSI worksheet by clicking here. You will also need the Historical Perspective PDF that can also be found below the slide deck. The handout requires you to list evidence for who was for or against prohibition. You will then answer one short question and provide a paragraph explaining your opinion. Make sure that you use evidence from your chart. This is an assessment rubric provided on the handout. When you are finished, upload your document to the Unit 2 Activity 1, the Roaring Twenties and Prohibition assignment folder. The slide deck recording will